Dr. Demeter here. So this is my first lecture for Living Earth College online. So welcome. I am going to be doing a review of the book that I've just published, Con Viv. And I think that the most important thing is that I'm getting this information into the world, and from that place we design. So currently what I see happening generally in an institutional context, in a policy context, a food systems context, is there is a lot of abstraction happening and a lot of static documentation and very little alignment with participatory action and community-led action. So that's one of the main reasons why I wrote the book, because I see this gap and it's an opportunity to design life from a different methodology. And the methodology is informed by life systems theory, evolutionary biology. So it's an interconnected world view of life. And so, of course, if we're designing policy for life, for people, it would make sense that we actually are designing from a philosophical standpoint of living systems theory. So that's what I'm going to introduce today. And where do we begin? So many people that talk about systems and life systems talk about the big complex polycrisis and systems design from a quite a chaotic big picture perspective. But I start in a very simple place, but probably just as complex. I start with the self. And the self is a perceiving organ. The self is, we are navigating life. So for example, if I'm working inside a local government context from a life systems perspective, I may be given a brief to engage the community with a $50,000 budget. And I might then go, oh, that's good for $50,000, be submissive to the brief and hire a consultant to engage the community and spend the $50,000. Or as an agency, coming from a perspective of agency, I could actually, this self could redirect the brief and say, how about I do the engagement and we spend the $50,000 on the projects that I co-design throughout the engagement with the community. And that's exactly what I did with the Huon Valley Food Hub. And the Huon Valley Food Hub ended up winning a National Economic Development Award because it was a different methodology, one that built trust with the community, but it was a perceiving organ of myself who knew the abstracted system that I was working within, and through negotiations and through my use of, you could say, knowledge of education of life systems design, I was able to redirect the brief and convince the manager and the directors that that was the better way to spend the money. So the self also, if we look at Freya Matthews, who is an ecological philosopher who's also an Australian like myself. I'm also Canadian, a Canadian-Australian. But Freya Matthews talks about the ecological self. And I speak of the convivial self. It's a similar idea. She has very strong influence from Buddhism. and so do I. Or, yeah, meditation and the mind. So we are in a situation in the world where there is a mechanistic system, there's top down designing of our life, and we need to shift the system with the organ of imagination, is what Rudolf Steiner calls it. And Freya Matthews is challenging us to be an ecological self from within ourselves and design from that place. In Con Viv, I speak of the convivial self, from looking at all aspects of our being, at reflection on how we are in the world, and designing from this place, seeing ourselves as a powerful agent of change in the world because of the way we perceive and the way we act in the world. So this lecture today, even though it's taken a very long time for me to get to this stage, I am not inside, as I've shared in my first little video, inside the university anymore. My self, my soul could no longer be in that environment, in this didactic, boxed off place that was not aligned with life systems. I was, it was not flowing in there. And even the environment was out of alignment because it wasn't aligned with life systems. This morning, I'm delivering the lecture to you from Magical Farm Tasmania, the regenerative farm that I've been developing for 7 years with my family, in a 50-person circle that we created with beautiful rocks, with beautiful local rocks, where I've run events on really emergent discussions around local economics with Helena Norberg-Hodge and international biodynamic best practice with the head of Biodynamics International, Yuli Herta. So this place has resonance, and it's taken a lot for me to go, that's it, I'm coming to you to deliver this lecture in this context. And I have my blackboard here, and we're just speaking of point one, the self. And I think that's my main share, is that the design of a place designs us, yes, but we need to create the conditions for us to redesign. And that's why I'm here today to deliver this lecture to you from this place in this context. The second element of the Con Viv themes the 7 Con Viv themes that I talk of in the book, and what I practice in my life systems design and food systems design, is relationships. So my perception organ of myself is part of a life system, and the people, the environment, all around me is from this ecological self perspective or the convivial self perspective. It's relational. Life is not a machine. Life is not an industrial, siloed off thing. It is dynamic, it's alive, and it's relational. So relationships that I speak of in the book our relationships with other human beings, but also the relationship with ourselves and that inner dialogue we have with ourselves, as well as the relationship we have with the unhuman world, and how this is all part of the way that can inform the way we're designing life, all the way up until policy and community projects, bioregional policy, international policy, can all be informed from a relational lens. And services, design, services, policy, outcomes for the 21st century need to gear towards this more relational way of seeing the world and designing policy that sees life as relational. And one little idea here, Con Viv is made up of the word from conviviality. And conviviality is, if we talk about it in that, if you look it up in a dictionary, it'll say coming together in a joyous way around a table with family and jovial. Ivan Illich took it further to say, well, it's relational. Conviviality is a deeply human idea, and it's being taken away from us because of the industrial society. So he writes about that in Tools of Conviviality. And I've taken it a step further and brought in the idea of life systems theory in relation to conviviality. And it makes complete sense because con viv in Latin is with life. So it's a deeply human and relational way of being is con viv. So con viv is a relational, I don't like to say theory, philosophy, approach, design methodology, practice. Con viv is something even in my research where I say, what happened in the English language where we don't have a way to celebrate and thank the food? Like in Japan, they say itadakimasu, which is a way of thanking life, of thanking the farmer, thanking the chef and the people that set the table, the whole all the relational circumstances, human and non-human, that brought that food to the table. It's the most beautiful word, is itadakimasu. But it's in other languages as well. Bon appetit, good meal, have a beautiful meal. And it's gratitude and thanks for the relational circumstances that brought that meal about. But the English language really doesn't have it. It's like, well, there's grace, but there's not something that people say in a traditional way. And maybe that's part of the challenge of our westernized culture and even the English language. So I would like to introduce an idea today, and I did so also in the front of my thesis. So I'm bringing it to the world. Is con viv, with life. We can say con viv for the meal, with life. It's a joyful coming together and thanking the food that's come to us today and the people all around us, and let's have a joyful, let's be joyful. And so this second point of relationships and what I'm proposing today with this life systems approach to design and to policy and to life is let's have more joy. And that is deeply human. to have more joy. Con Viv. And so we move to the third element, which is community. And community is that layered upon relationships where it becomes this dynamic organism of relationships and, of course, challenges, which draws us back to the self, the development of the self, and the development of our relationships, and how we need to become if we're to create communities and look after one another in these more challenging times that are ahead of us. Let's look at community as a very important, and I think it's important here that even it's point 3, 1, the self, 2, the relational, 3, we start to mix it up. The diversity of perspectives, of connections, and how we're to navigate that. But in community, something that I know deeply is the joy that comes. There's one of the geese. The joy that comes when and there's 3 geese, by the way, on Magical Farm. Hello, darling. When there is this coming together of people in place. And in the workshops that I run in community, the beautiful outcomes of a community composting workshop is so joyful, because we not only are stewarding the land, the geese are funny. The geese are always trying to work things out together, and it is complex. 3 is a dynamic number, and they're always in a funny dynamic, these 3 geese. Anyway, but the community composting workshop is this 3-hour workshop that I run, and usually there's around 7 to 10 people, and we get so much done. We weed together and have a conversation. So we're doing a lot of land stewarding. We're dealing with a lot of material that would otherwise maybe not have been transmuted in such a beautiful way in a compost pile, like cow manure, sacred cow manure, or coffee grinds from the local cafe. We're dealing with these primary resources and making them into this magical compost pile, and having interesting conversations, tending to the land, tending to relationships, and before you know it, within an hour and a half, it's all done, and we have morning tea, and a lot of the time I make pizza, and we enjoy conviviality together. And it's such a beautiful thing to see. If we weren't in these isolated individual settings, like the way life's designed these days, in all these separate titles and privatization and going to work in the box to look at the box and be in the box, if things were more relational and more community orientated, we would have much healthier life situation. So we are in this important mission on this planet right now to create conditions for community to thrive. And so thank you to the geese as well for their input to this dynamic area of number 3, community. So number 4 is ecology. And interestingly here, I also love chakras, and I love the number 7. And so if we think about the base chakra is the self, the strong foundations, the relationships, which is the sacral chakra, that creative exchange, between people and the non-human world. And then the solar plexus is 3, community, where there is this life force, is what the solar plexus is about. Something more emerges into that solar plexus energetic of the life force, but we have to have the willpower to bring that about, to bring about that life force. And that means we need strong base and sacral chakras in order to get to the community. And then, wow, we get to the heart chakra, the 4th chakra of the heart. And isn't it beautiful that ecology is here? The ecosystem, the opening up to the interconnectedness, to the heart space, to the intuition, and to following our hearts. And the ecological way of being, to deeply tune in to our heart space and be out of the mind and in the heart and lead with the heart, because that gives us the compassion to overcome the challenges that are presented from the self and the ego and the shadow and the relational challenges within community. The ecology as well in this 4th area is here as an inspiration, because the ecology is there in front of us to show us a pattern of life. It's here in reference. And it was interesting because the wind just started to blow as I speak of. I was looking up at, there was something quite powerful going on there, because I was looking up at the trees and the wind started to blow, and then the chair that I've got in this area that's holding up the camera blew over. And it's the I was speaking about the ecology, and I just find it really interesting that that happened. So I'm just setting up this again, and I'm not going to edit it out because it's very relational and interesting that that happened. So the ecology. The ecology, I was just about to say the reverence, the beauty of nature, the patterns in nature to inspire us to do everything. But tuning in here at the heart space to remember that. And I was thinking as I was looking up there at the wind blowing, just as it's gone quiet now, but I was thinking of the cosmos and the interconnectedness of the cosmos, this vast interconnected cosmos. And then I was thinking about the cells in the microscope, of the biology, the life in the cells. And if you speak to an astronomer or a biologist who is really passionate about what they're doing, they understand interconnectedness of life and ecology. And so this is quite a profound idea, ecology, as simple as that. Aboriginal paintings are dot paintings. They are so beautiful and deep, and understanding of this concept of ecology, of the interconnectedness of life. And so if we bring in this point 4 of ecology through that heart space to drop into the heart space and bring more ecological view into everything that we do in life. And so we move to the next idea, number 5, which is agriculture. So agriculture is a really important element because it's where we actually, it's this space where we actually can, as a conscious human, begin to redesign life with our agency in place, creating healthy food, connecting in community, relationships. And as there's a local farmer here, his name's Matthew Evans, and he says that the farming is frontline environmentalism. And so something that I see in movements these days is an abstraction that's happening where there's outrage, but there's not enough praxis, theory in practice. And so farming provides us, land stewarding provides us with an opportunity. Agriculture provides us with this ancient way to connect to nature, connect to ourselves, to connect in community, and create life sustainment, regenerate life. And so from a policy perspective as well, and an economic perspective, which will be the 2 next points that I talk about, agriculture is this really interesting entree into redesigning life itself, everyday life itself. And that's why I ended up developing Magical Farm, because Magical Farm is a place to bring these ideas into practice. And it does challenge economics. It does challenge policy on that micro level. And even it's inspired more macroeconomic policy because of the discussions, the relationships, the community that's come around this place to ask those bigger questions, particularly after Helena Norberg-Hodge was here to discuss localization and the challenges of globalization and the macro economy, which is all geared towards regulations and taxes that are not an alignment with life. It gets you thinking, well, of course, you can create policy and economics that is aligned with life. We just don't have those conditions at this stage, but we can get to that point. And so agriculture, it's immense opportunity. It's a joyful opportunity. It's a health revolution opportunity to engage with agriculture in a life systems regenerative context. And so next is economics. I'm passionate about economics. Economics is born from oikos, the ancient Greek idea of managing the household budget. So it's got a little bit of a feminine idea in it and a very micro idea of managing the budget within the household. So economics is a way that we choose to manage the life, the way that things flow in life. And foundational economics is an idea that life-sustaining areas of food and housing and healthcare should be the deep pillars of the economy. And the economy should be geared around all of those pillars. In this time, we have more of a trickle-down economic model that's very extractive for a few people. And it's not food, for example. Let's go to agriculture, as point 5 has led us to. Supermarkets are there in a profit-making sense. So I'm not saying at this point to oust the supermarket, but definitely the way supermarkets are designed, the way farmers are treated in pricing, is an extractive economic model. And so we have an opportunity with our economics to challenge this paradigm. And one way that I'm proposing at the moment, and I've just recently put in a paper, a policy position paper to the Canadian Agriculture Department, to look at how food communities can become a fundamental part of 21st century policy, and how new professions can emerge from this way of managing food called praxis professions, where we have people that are in policymaking and government spaces that are actually managing the growing of food themselves and distributing the food to those who are in most need. Having an economy based around carrot and tomatoes, and supporting the local farmers with the money that's flowing in that space of the government, as opposed to it going to another strategy document or abstracted idea or an engagement to actually create service provision and participatory opportunities for food to be grown and distributed in local places. And also on the health area, to bring about well-being by connecting local people to their food systems. And so there's lots of community co-design, citizen-led design to explore and experiment policy innovation in relation to the economic model and the policy. And that's where we get to point 7, which is policy and culture, because this whole circle of Con Viv is ultimately talking about cultural renewal through an ecological lens. And so you've got a little bit of a sense now of where I'm coming from. I am a homesteader. I am a regenerative farmer. But as you know from today, where I'm coming from is I don't see a disconnection between the soil and the policy. It's all one interconnected whole, and it's an intricate relational journey that we're all going to be going on to redesign life. And we have an immense opportunity to make a better way of living. And this is my first lecture at Magical Farm Tasmania. Thank you very much for being here. It's an honor to present to you today. It's very good for my voice chakra and my heart chakra to do this. And please email me if you're interested in what I've just shared, and share the lecture with others. And I hope to see you in the next lecture or at the farm, or if you wanted to buy my book, you can purchase it. It's on the YouTube channel links. I'm also running a course in Italy in January, talking about ecological renewal through the land. And I have online courses and cohorts of activating local food systems. I also teach a regenerative farming certificate and how to create a food community which is, I'll share that more on these ideas in another moment. But if you are interested to connect in any way through Living Earth College with me, Dr. Demeter, please get in touch. Thank you so much.